Hey, welcome to Love Stories Take 3.
We had so many issues this morning trying to get this recorded, but we really believe that there's something for everyone in this message, and so we wanted to come back and re-record this so that you guys can hear a little bit about our stories and just be encouraged in your lives.
It's awesome. So what we're doing today is we're starting off with the origins. When was the first kiss? What was it like? Let's hear it, Bailey's. What you got?
Our first kiss was in the driveway of the house that she was staying at while we were dating. I just felt like I really needed to make a move, and I went in for it, and we clanged teeth, and it was.
Nice.
This was actually
Explosive.
after. This all happened in the same day. Like, he held my hand. He took a photo of us that was very unflattering. It was the middle of summer. We were both sweaty. Then he decided it was time for us to kiss for the first time. And he did all of these things within a couple hours of one another. And I'm just like, seriously? I know I
put in that work.
I know I prayed for you, but you're rushing it.
Good job, Evelyn.
Well, our first kiss was also in a driveway of Josh's house. And I was already sitting in my car ready to leave, and the door was open. And instead of walking around the door to kind of like kneel down and kiss me, he tried to like go over the open door. And like, it was very awkward.
It's because I'm an overachiever.
Oh,
Yeah, not the best first kiss.
No.
What about you, sponsors?
Ours was also in Josh's driveway. It was Josh's parents' driveway. And we were in his like super old rinky-dink car, and we had our first kiss. And after we finished, he was like, "Hey, look!" And it was his dad who had seen us kiss, but then was trying to run inside before we saw him, so that we wouldn't be awkward and embarrassed. And it was super awkward.
Still
Nice.
awkward.
Very memorable.
Really
Super
embarrassing.
That leaves you, Hernandez.
All right, so ours was not in a driveway. We're gonna be the mold breaker there.
Yeah.
We were at Brooke's parents' house. Sorry, Mama Kay and Papa
They
Dan.
don't care.
We were at their house. We had already been dating for a couple years. Yep, we did. We waited for a couple years.
Couple years.
We'll get into that later. And Brooke comes in for a kiss with the hardest duck lip peck ever. And it was our first kiss
You know
and
why?
everything.
I wanted every kiss afterwards to only be better.
Only
There
be
you go,
better.
there you
She
go.
wanted to set the floor. So I was like, oh, let's try that again. Let's try that again.
started low.
Again and again.
So the main question on that is, were you living with us at the time?
Oh, dang.
No, I don't. You were back at sea
I'm
the
pretty
night.
sure I was.
You was
Whoops.
back
I
at sea
remember-
the night.
Sorry, Dean.
I remember finding out
How
that y'all kissed, and I was like, I thought y'all weren't going to.
All disappointed in us like we did some terrible sin.
It was on like New Year's
Well.
Eve or something, wasn't it? Or
Uh,
Valentine's
no.
or Christmas.
It was
Or...
after.
That's funny.
It was.
It was-
I don't actually
It
remember.
was right before. I think it was right after we got engaged.
Oh,
It was
Right
right.
around New Year's.
I don't know.
How funny.
It's good. Good job, guys. All right. First person to say I love you. It was me. It was an accident. We're middle laughing on my couch, correct, on my couch. And I was like, ha, 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 I love you. And then I
He just was
turned
like,
red.
oh my
and
gosh.
Ghosted.
And I was like,
Face.
I love you
It was so sweet.
too. Yep. It was sweet. Who else?
That's awesome.
Well, we can go. So I didn't actually say I love you first. I wrote it down in a notebook because I was super terrified. But we were at his apartment on CFNI campus, and we had just there were a ton of people over, and I just remember thinking like he was like such a good man. He was hosting so well and just taking care of people, and I was like, and I really loved him. And so I wrote it down in his notebook. And then I was like, oh, I can't leave this for him to find, so I have to throw it away. So
She asked me to leave my apartment for a second.
Get you out of your own apartment.
And I didn't know what was going on. So then I come back, she's like, okay, you can come back in now. And then I walked her to her car, and she decided to leave it. And so I found it when I got back. It said, I love you on it. And
So then he texted me while I'm driving, mind you, and said, I love you too. And I was like, oh no, this was a mistake. So I called him and I was like, you don't have to say it. You can take your time. Don't say it now. And he was like, no, I do love you. And so then, yeah, the rest is history.
What about you, sponsors?
For us, we started dating like online because she was out of the country. So we kind of didn't see each other for like the first 5 months. And when we finally saw each other, I had like a whole date planned out. And we were walking just out where I'm from, out in the woods. And I told her I loved her first.
Yeah. It was not awkward. It was good. I put my lip in back.
Yay.
Really good
It's
memory.
like one of those Lifetime movies or something. Good job, guys. Well, hey, talking
Hold on.
about...
We didn't get the Hernandez.
Oh, we didn't?
Nope.
Okay. Sorry, it's because y'all spent so much time on the other one.
Because he still didn't be kissed before we were married.
So, dang, man. Who forgotten? No, yeah. I want to say I said it first. She was dropping me off at the men's dorms at CFNI. And I don't remember what was happening. We were like laughing and stuff. And I was getting out of the car. And I turned around. I was like, all right, bye. I love you. And then I didn't really mean to say it. It was kind of like a slip like Josh's. But I kind of also did mean it. And so we had never said it before that. So I was just like, who am I kidding? I really do love you. Like, I really do. And she just kind of looked at me all like panic mode. She's like, thank you. And then
She drove off.
she drove off. So told me a couple days later. She's like, I really do love you. I just had to process it.
She had to be
So I had to
sure.
process it. But yeah, she had never
I
told.
didn't want to say it if I didn't mean it because
There
I'd
you
never
go.
said it
She had
before.
never, told a guy before. So
So
Love it.
sweet. Well, speaking of young love and dating, and first, Nathan and Brooke, why don't y'all share a little bit about dating and what that looked like from a, young couple that's trying to honor the
wholesome,
Lord.
Sorry, our daughter's a little upset with us right now.
Well,
I'll be there
obviously,
while
y'all didn't keep that kissing pledge.
Yeah.
yeah.
Look at
So
those- Look at those girls in our matching outfits. So cute.
So we dated back in we met back in 2011, and we had just gotten to CFNI. And when we both got there, we were just kind of like we were kind of in this place where we wanted to really take our journey there seriously, right? We were there at the school to grow in our walk with the Lord and learn. So we were kind of in like a no relationship mode, but that immediately challenged me whenever I met Brooke for the first time, that first like 2 weeks. And so I was like, dang, she's really pretty. I liked her. Anyway, by the time we actually started finally dating, we had already determined that because of our past and our history with dating and all the physical stuff that comes with it, all the boundaries that you either do or don't set, we were like, we really want to make sure that we do this right. So Brooke primarily set up a lot of boundaries, and then I also came into it wanting to set certain boundaries as well. So like, what were some of those boundaries that you?
So we never went anywhere alone. We did a lot of we went on dates and stuff, but it was always out in public. We would hang out with friends a lot too, but really our big thing was just never being alone together, unless we were driving in a car.
Yeah, and it
not
was
stationary in a car, driving.
we were both on leadership at the school, so there was already some high standards that we kind of had to live by. But aside from those, we really wanted to to do one thing, and that was I wanted to show Brooke what she was worth to me, and Brooke knew her worth and also wanted to, you know, to find someone who would see her for who she was rather than what she could give, right? Like in the physical aspect. We both came from physical pasts, and so we just kind of we knew what our boundaries were. We knew what our triggers were, and so we wanted to make sure that not just because of leadership stuff at the school, but for our relationship, we wanted to make sure that you know, that I was honoring her and she was honoring me, vice versa, you know. So I don't necessarily say like, hey, if you're dating someone, you shouldn't be kissing. I'm just saying for us it was more knowing our triggers, because I like to kiss. And so, you know, it leads on to other things. And
you
so
guys did that for a long time. It wasn't just like a month or two.
So we dated for 3.5 years before getting married. And we didn't, like Nate kind of addressed earlier, we didn't kiss until after we were engaged. So there was a long time we didn't do anything physical. And I think for me, I want to kind of add, like I knew my worth. And so I think that was helpful in this situation. I kind of was in the mindset, like, if I meet someone and they don't want to respect the boundaries that I've set, well, then I don't need to be with them. I don't need them.
That's good.
Like, not in a mean way, but like, I don't need them to show me my worth. I knew my worth was in Jesus. And I also, I mean, everyone knows we're re-recording this. So I was thinking earlier about how we had a friend tell us that a relationship is kind of like a triangle. And the closer that you get to God, the closer you get to each other. And I felt like that was kind of what Nate and I, like, that was our goal. Like, we just wanted our relationship to mirror Jesus. And
and in our pursuit of him, we would grow closer together. And it would, you know, in the healthiest way. So I think one thing I just want to add before we get off here is has to do with like shame and condemnation. And I know that there's a lot of people at our church who have either had past relationships, whether they be like serious or just kind of that, you know, dating kind of thing. But I want to like encourage you in that, you know, hearing our story and how we set such high boundaries, like just because you may have already gone somewhere with someone, doesn't mean that you need to live in shame and condemnation and just kind of stay in that rut of like, well, I've already done that before. I've already, you know, started that process. So like in my next relationship, there's just no boundaries. Like our encouragement to you would be to know your worth in the Lord, know your value, and pursue him, like we were talking about with that triangle thing. So good. Pursue him, and the closer you get to him.
And one more thing, sorry. Also a reminder that a fruit of the Spirit is self-control. So if you think there's no way that I can't do it, if you have Holy Spirit, then you should have the fruits of the Spirit, and one of those fruits is self-control. So you can do it. So yeah.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And you do got the Holy Ghost.
You're a believer.
Hey, and that's also just, I mean, here's 4 couples that were sexually pure on their wedding night with one another. And so it is possible. It really is. So that's just an encouragement for those of you out there that want to honor the Lord and do things differently. It's possible. So, I think they all 4 of y'all did, and if didn't, we need to have a meeting tomorrow about that. So
on the same line of dating,
yes.
What about you guys, Baileys? Tell us a little bit, or everybody, about what it was like to be dating in your 30s and late 20s.
Yeah, so I came out to Christ for Nations. I was 30 years old when I came out, and I, you know, fully expected to find my wife at Bible college, but after 3 years, I had no ring by spring, and you know, I was just kind of like frustrated with the Lord. You know, it's definitely a desire that I felt like He put in my heart, you know, to be married and to be a husband. But it was shortly after I graduated that I decided that I was just going to give up kind of looking, and I was just going to be okay with myself And that's when the Lord brought Charlotte along. But along the way, there were a couple prospects, but
Charlotte's
I got some really great dating advice that I have since taken on as my own advice that I give people. But you're looking for attraction in three places. You're looking for physical attraction. You're looking for friendship attraction. Do I enjoy being around this person? And then you're also looking for attraction in calling and values. And if any one of those don't line up, then that's not God's best for you.
That's good.
You know, so if you're willing to forego attraction and values because you're seeing somebody who's physically attracted that you like being around, but your values don't line up, then don't settle for it. Allow the Lord to bring you the person that is really going to be His best for you in your life. And so that's what I did. And when Charlotte and I met, I got forced on a date. Thanks, Jen Highland. She sent me a text with a phone number that said, "You're asking this girl out." And so when we were out on the date, I was just like, man, I really am physically attracted. I enjoy being around her. And, you know, we have a lot of the same callings. So I believe it was on our second date that I had talked to her about, you know, are you interested in dating for marriage and a family and everything? Because I knew what I wanted. And I wasn't going to settle for something that wasn't what I wanted.
Right.
Come on.
And just to kind of go off of the fact that he found me when he wasn't looking, and that's the same for both of us. I was just at this point where I was almost 29, and no, I had just maybe I had just turned 29, and honestly don't even remember at this point, but just in the fact that I had waited for so long and had prayed for so long, and I was just kind of like spent, and I thought, all right, if I'm not meant to be with anyone, take this desire from me. But the best part in that was that God was like, you know, I chased after things that I wanted in my own way for so long, and He was like, let me give you my best. And you know, one thing that no one ever told me growing up was, yes, everyone said, pray for your spouse, pray for what attributes you want to see in them, but no one ever said, pray for yourself. Make sure that you are lined up and that you represent what they want in a spouse. Make sure you work on yourself too, instead of just expecting them to be whoever you think that they should be. And so that was just, that's some really good advice that I want to give to everybody is, yes, pray for whatever you're waiting on, pray for it, but also pray that you are prepared for that, prepared for the promises that God has for you.
Yeah. And I really took that to heart too. You know, while I was waiting, I was listening to Focus on the Family every day religiously, because I wanted to be the husband and the man of God that my future spouse deserved. And so I almost started doing that as a coping mechanism to not having what I wanted to begin with, but it became something that, no, I'm really going to work on me. I'm going to make sure that I am who I'm supposed to be, so that when it does come along, that I'm prepared for it.
So good.
So good.
Come on. That's so good.
I love the whole like commitment to Jesus and the restraint and all that, because sometimes that's our gift to the Lord is our devotion, and really we're being faithful to our future spouse by maintaining our purity, whether it be purity of heart or preparing ourselves. You know, I remember, Emlyn, when you used to do that. You used to tell me, I listen to Focus on the Family every day, and you were a single guy. You were listening to it by faith. So that was awesome.
Yeah. So kind of opposite of you guys, the sponsors met and got married pretty young, but y'all have been through quite a bit in a little bit of time. So y'all share with us what that's been like.
All right. No, my wife's from Georgia, for you guys who don't know, and I'm from California, and we met each other actually on the mission field over in Tanzania, Africa. So it's just been a wild adventure that God set. But in our short 2.5 years of marriage, we've been like through quite a few major marriage impactors. We were married young. I was 20 and she was 19, which statistically speaking doesn't end well. Having a lot of learning with that. We moved states a month after we got married. We were really praying, asked the Lord for direction. He told us to move out here to Texas. We have no friends or family out here at the time. And we packed everything we could in the car that we fit in our car, and we moved out here. Since we've been here, I've had 2 job losses, which is definitely just like figuring out how we settle in with job losses. We had our bank account wiped out twice. And then when we started getting settled in with marriage, we had our relationship totally change when my wife got pregnant. And after she gave birth to our beautiful baby, we found out after hospital, like after a doctor visit of saying healthy heart, healthy body, healthy everything. She was born, and we found out that she had not just a mental disability, but also a physical imperative, or physical issue with a heart defect. So she was born with Down syndrome and also like an AV heart canal defect. So we've had a lot of learning in a short amount of time, but it's amazing because when we're doing life with Jesus, we actually have the person who's the most stable walking through life with us. We can walk through like hope and joy in the middle of any circumstance. So what we've been learning is really learn to press in with Jesus in the middle of the hard.
Yeah. And we definitely haven't always done that well. On the way down to Texas, like when we packed up all our stuff and we were moving from California, we fought the entire time. Literally the entire time. It was like nasty, bad arguing, like fighting as we're like packing up the car, like and like little comments here and there. It was bad.
So bad.
Really embarrassing bad. But as we've had the opportunity to go through different circumstances and some hard, difficult circumstances, we've been given a chance to practice pressing into Jesus and pressing into each other during the hard. And we've gotten better as we've come across each new circumstance or difficulty. And we found ourselves in the waiting room at Cook Children's, and they gave us the news that our daughter had Down syndrome and that she was going to need heart surgery. And it could have been really, really crushing, and it could have felt super hopeless. But we took that opportunity and we stopped there. I remember stopping, and we really looked at each other somewhere along the lines, and we decided to root ourselves in truth. And the truth that we chose was that God was good. And so our entire journey in and out of the hospital, when I was in the NICU and they would come in with bad news, or I was learning about the disability or learning about the heart defect, and it felt heavy, I would stop and I would say, no, God's good. Even if he doesn't seem good right now, or even if the circumstance doesn't seem good, God's good. And it actually became an opportunity for Josh and I to bond together, because there was moments like when I was in my living room one time and I felt like we couldn't get Liberty healthy. And I felt like I was losing my mind. I was like, it doesn't matter what we do. She ends up in the emergency room. Like, it's to the point where we didn't know if our kid was going to live, and it just felt like it was getting drawn out. Like, she was going to die, and it was just getting drawn out. And I felt like I was just shaking, and I was so angry. And Josh was able to pull me in and really remind me, like, no, like, this isn't the truth. Even if this is what our lives look like right now, it's not the truth, because God's good.
That's good.
And so rooting ourselves in that truth, even during hard circumstances, became a bonding point. And we're able really to go through anything together, and we're able to grow. We're able to thrive. We're able to bond, and we're able to build history together, worshiping Jesus through hard circumstances. So rather than going through something and getting pulled apart, we're going through something hard and we're actually being driven together. We allow the hard circumstances to positively impact our marriage. And it's been just a training and a rewiring of our brain, and pressing into Jesus and pressing into each other, and we're still definitely growing. But yeah.
Awesome. Love
That's
it.
so good.
You know, the thing that you guys said was similar to what the Hernandezes talked about, you know, that triangle. and then how we're just pursuing Jesus. And a lot of people focus upon their differences as a couple. We don't have anything in common, all that kind of stuff. It's like, man, if you will just burn for Jesus and that person is burning for Jesus,
Yeah.
you will have that in common.
Yeah.
And so what more important to have in common and to be central of your life than Jesus? And doesn't mean you're going to be perfect in your relationship with him, but if you're both chasing the same man, or you're gonna be on the same path. And so that's the most common thing. And it's when we grow complacent in that is when we start focusing on the differences that we have in our spouse. So
That's good. That leaves us. So we will celebrate 17 years of marriage in 2 weeks, which is really fun. 18 years together. And we've learned a lot over those years.
Yep.
And we still sometimes look at each other and say, wow, we've been married like a really long time and we have 4 kids.
Like Madison said, we're learning, we're growing.
That's right, yeah. And that's something that's important to remember, is that just because we've hit this mark doesn't mean that we can just keep it going easy from now on. We have to still be mindful to keep working on it. We can't just coast through our marriage. We have to be intentional.
Absolutely.
But over those 17 years, we've seen several seasons. Good ones and bad ones.
Good seasons, bad seasons. Seasons, that were really difficult. Madison was talking a little bit about, just the fragility of that season and just those hopeless things. And we went through
with having young kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, you have different vulnerabilities at different times. And so for us, when 2010, our 2 oldest kids were Judah was a toddler and a handful, and I was, a new dad and learning things. We were just having a difficulty in our marriage, and we had to learn in that time, like, to love one another. And we had to learn to grow and be strong and be stable and develop some resiliency in the midst of the fragility. And I think it's just, Jesus was obviously that anchor, but we went through that difficult time. And, when we see people go through similar scenarios, they just don't think that they're going to make it. One thing that, that we have to draw from, and we can always encourage them in, is, listen, if you don't endure this, if you don't hold on through the difficult season, you're not going to get to experience the best seasons. Right. And so some people, they don't ever know what they say. Well, we tried all of our issues, all this kind of stuff. We tried, we weren't able to get through it. And so for us, we were like, we were resilient because we were committed to the Lord. Again, going back to that Jesus factor, the most important factor, we were committed to the Lord in our vows. And that's why vows are so important, is because I'm not just committing to Leslie, I'm committing to God and Leslie in that. And so because we had those vows to fall back on, that was able to pull us through that very difficult season. And now we experience all the pleasures and all the joys that we get to experience now because we are willing to endure and hold on to our vows during that season. And so many people, they never get to experience that. Yeah. And my heart just breaks whenever I see, man, if you just would have pressed through, it's like that illustration you've heard of the guy digging for gold, and like he stopped like 6 inches short. He spent his whole life digging for gold in that mine. And then the next guy came in and he dug for gold and he got it like in a couple of weeks. Yeah. It's like if that guy would have just dug for 2 more weeks, he would have got it. And I see that so many times in people's marriages, that they just weren't willing to endure. They weren't willing to press in and stay devoted to the Lord to experience that incredible marriage. So if we'll learn to be faithful in the difficult seasons, then we'll be fruitful in the phenomenal seasons. And so it's just really important that we would just embrace those things. Yeah.
And unfortunately, sometimes one person is the one who gives up.
Yes.
And you don't have a say. The other person walks out on the marriage. But that's why it's so important for you to focus on what your commitment is, and to just press forward. And we decided a long time ago, we heard a message from Chris Valadin, and he said we can't both have a bad day on the same day, him and his wife. And Josh and I just really thought, wow, that's good, because there's days when the kids have been acting a fool at home and I'm exhausted, and I text him and I'm like, I'm not in a good mood. You're going to come home to chaos, and I need you to fix it, or not fix it, but have grace.
Right, have grace.
And so there's days also when he's had a very stressful day, and he lets me know before he gets home so that we can help each other. It's not
set that expectation.
Right. It's not saying that I get to turn off my commitments today, but it's just saying I need the extra grace for you to, rise up and pull a little bit more weight than normal today.
And we say all the time that, marriage is 100-100, divorce is 50-50, but really none of us are given 100-100 all the time. We're like 90, like working towards 100. But sometimes 85, and so that day I need you to give 95. And so we're always, understanding that, what, some days I have to give a little more,
Yeah.
and some days you have to give a little more. It's because it's a partnership. We're working together on this thing.
Yeah.
And if we'll press through, we'll see the best. And I think that we're experiencing the best season of our marriage
Absolutely.
right now.
Yeah.
No question.
And I think as we were preparing, one of the things that I really thought about yesterday is if, we would have given up when it was hard in 2010, we wouldn't have Elisa and Uriah today. They are people that have a calling on their life to impact the kingdom of God. And had we divorced or given up back then, that would be it. There'd be no Elisa and Uriah today.
No, it's crazy.
So it's just crazy. So stick
There'd
it
be
out.
no Overflow Church.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We wouldn't have the relationships with these beautiful people that we're talking with right now.
It's worth it.
Yeah, it's absolutely.
It can be hard. It can be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's always worth it.
But it is also costly.
Yeah.
A good marriage is costly.
And so don't, kind of what we were talking about earlier about seasons, don't give up right now because it's hard, whatever your struggle is. If you have young children or you're between jobs or you've moved, there's going to be a season on the other side if you just keep pressing through, and it's going to be good. And then there'll probably be another one that's difficult, but it's going to be good. And we're just getting stronger and loving each other more through each one.
All right, 30 seconds or less. Pro tip, game changer, something that you're doing, seeing in your marriage that's working, that can help people.
Well, I'll go first since we were still talking. Back in 2010 when we went through that marriage counseling, which marriage counseling is awesome for anybody, whether you're in a good season or bad season. It's never wrong to get counseling, and it doesn't mean you're broken or weak.
That's right.
But Our Lady told us about the number system, and it really helped us to understand things from our spouse's perspective, because there's some things that I do, like making comments on his driving or whatever, that I think is not a big deal, but it affects him really bad. And so, the joke is in a lot of marriages, men leaving up the toilet seat or, the toilet paper's the wrong way. That might be a 3. Whatever, yeah.
For somebody, it might be a 9.
Yeah, but it really gives you time to pause and reflect what really bothers me. And also it allows you to see, wow, when I comment on Josh's driving, that really, really bothers him. And why would I want to do something that really bothers him if I know that it does? And so we still implement that today. Yeah. Sometimes if, he says, when you really interrupt me, that's a 10 or that's a 9.
Or if I call you boss, that's
don't
like
call
a 10.
me boss.
It's like a 10.
Don't call me boss.
So.
Anyways, so
and don't push those buttons intentionally.
That's right. So we still use the number system. Who else?
Cool. Who else? Pro tip.
That's a good tip. I like that.
So, for us, like one thing that that the Bible says in Genesis that Adam stood before Eve, and they were both naked and unashamed. And I think that is something that is so important, is to be able to be before your spouse unashamed. It's not just in regards to physical appearance, but it's in regards to anything that you're dealing with, to be able to bring to your spouse whatever it is that you're going through, and know that you're not going to be shamed for it, but rather you have somebody that's there to help you through it, because when you're shamed, that leads to hiding, and that damages intimacy,
That's good.
So for us, I think that that we are open to be able to talk about whatever to the other person without shame, without judgment. You can bring your problem to me, and I won't judge you, but rather we're going to walk through it together.
Right, and also just be extenders of grace. In really any situation, like we represent Jesus, and we are royalty, and so we honestly we can, what am I trying to say? We can afford the grace that we're giving.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Because we're receiving it from the Lord. And so just like this morning, I picked a fight over a toilet paper roll, and like, it's little things like that you don't want to come in and steal the joy and the unity in your marriage or in your relationships in general. And so just be extenders of grace.
That's good.
So good.
Go ahead, Nathan. Pastor Nathan.
Yeah, for us, very, very similarly to Shar, along that grace line. Brooke and I have kind of made it a something that we do or try to challenge ourselves in often, at least for the last couple of years as we've, grown in our marriage, is be adjustable. So basically, just like Josh and Leslie were talking about how they have their things that they don't like, we all have things that we don't like when our spouse does this one thing, or when anybody does this one thing, or whatever it may be. But in a marriage, a lot of times what it ends up being is you adjust to my to my annoyance or to my frustration or whatever it may be, my pet peeve. But the challenge is to look internally and see how can I adjust for them. Like whenever like for instance, when Brooke comments on my driving or comments on whatever it may be, tries to help me in certain things, I get annoyed sometimes. I'm like, why are you asking me if I need help? I got this. Like I can do it. But she's just trying to help. It's an annoyance. I don't know. I get annoyed when people try to help me if I don't need the help. But she's just trying to help. And so instead of me telling her, hey, I don't like when you do that, this, that I don't like you asking me for help, I need to look internally and be like,
sure,
how can I adjust to her?
Because I'm a helper.
She's a helper.
And God made me that way.
And I'm forcing her to change something about like who she is, just because it annoys me, because of maybe a pride issue or because of whatever it may be, right? So adjustability, not just with your spouse, but within yourself, reflection. So
good.
That's definitely for us.
That leaves the sponsors. Your pro tip.
Yep. For us, I think one of our biggest helpers was we used to get in a lot of kind of petty arguments. And it would be like a lot of, we call it wordsmithing, but it's like I said something and you get really stuck on the way I said it or what I said.
Mm-hmm.
And
mainly me with that.
I say, but you said. And we would just fight like on a surface level, but never get to the heart of the issue. And so what we started doing was saying what I hear you saying is. And so if I come to Josh with an issue and I'm like, hey, this is bothering me, blah, 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 he would in return go, what I hear you saying is that this, and this. And that way, before we go into an argument, he fully understands my heart and I fully understand his heart. And it's not so much that we're just butting heads to butt heads, but we're actually finding the root of the issue, understanding each other, and then making progress.
And it's really helpful because we stopped going from just arguing about an issue to solving the problem, and then we're able to actually work through what we're actually talking about.
That's good.
So it didn't keep coming up again and again. We worked through it. But just a pro tip going along with that, we got that from premarital counseling. Pastor Josh and Pastor Leslie are talking about marriage counseling. If you guys are about to be married, get some wisdom. Get some people that are older than you that have years of experience and pick their brain. Ask what it means to actually be married and sit underneath them and listen. We did that, and that gave us a lot to kind of go into marriage well with.
Yeah. I remember that you asked my dad. You guys had barely got to Overflow. You'd only been married a couple months, and my parents were there for Thanksgiving. And when they said they'd been married like 28 years, you were like, give me some advice. And he was like, I don't know what to say.
Well, most people...
But I know that was true. Yeah. Like, they were hungry for that.
But most people, they don't want advice, and they think going to counseling, something's wrong with them. And that's really just a prideful thing. Like, counseling is one of the best things that any human can do, especially in marriage, when you got two humans becoming one. Yeah. And, it's critical. It's really important to seek advice, and that's wise. But for some reason, we like to learn things on our own. But if we're wise, we'll learn from others. And so it's really good, Josh.
Come on.
My pro tip was walking. We started doing that back in August, and we've just grown a lot just by walking together, exercising. I was already going to the gym, and then COVID and all that stuff. So I was trying to do some stuff at the house, and so we started walking together, and it's just been awesome. There's no screen in front of us. There's no TV. I mean, we've done that for a long time in our marriage where we just, we'll do something together, but this, we're actually engaged in talking, and it's been awesome. So there's a lot of things that just kind of work out organically. It's not like we have to set aside a time and say, okay, we need to sit down and have coffee and talk. No, let's go for a walk. We need the exercise, and this 40 to 50 minutes, 4 or 5 times a week it's just been huge. It's been a real game changer. So if someone came to me right now and said, hey, help us, what can we do? I'd say start taking walks together. That would be my advice.
Mm.
Because it's free.
Yeah.
Just a good pair of shoes.
Well, thank you guys so much. This has been amazing. Even though for us, we've done it twice. Everybody that's watching now, it'll be their first time. So we're so thankful. Now we're going to be able to tell everybody else's story.
That's right.
But we're so thankful that you guys tuned in to watch this. And we hope that something blessed each and every one of you, whatever season of life you find yourself in. And we have groups this week.
Mm-hmm.
We have our third Saturday men and women's gathering and all the other
And we
groups.
have Valentines that we bought for everyone. And they're at the
Chocolate.
church. So you have to come to church next Sunday to get those.
To get your chocolate, yeah.
And we won't save them for you. So you got to be there next Sunday.
If not, we're going to eat them all.
We won't send them. You got to come and get them. So.
Awesome. Well, we hope that you guys have an awesome day. Play in the snow. Stay safe. Bye.
Bye.
Love you guys. Bye.
Love you guys.